Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pop Council. This is a show where we talk about everything in pop culture and geeky news, everything from Star Wars to Disney, Marvel to DC, and everything in between. I'm your host, Wendy Lee Szany, and of course, joining me, as always, my lovely co-host, Jami Philbrick.
Hey, Wendy, how are ya?
I'm doing so well. It's a little hot in LA right now.
Yes,
it's a little. I've just taken a shower and I already feel a little sweaty, and I've just been sitting. There's been no physical activity.
I've got 4 air conditioners blowing on me right now as we speak. I am in a nice 68 degrees.
I love it. Well, you guys, we're going to try to stay cool and talk about a bunch of topics today, including Toxic Avenger, the villain being cast in She-Hulk, a little Mandalorian news, a little review for In the Heights, and so much more. And of course, you guys know it is never a proper pop council without a third member. So let us introduce you to our awesome council member, Lupe Haas. Hi, Lupe.
Hello, everyone out there, and Jami and Wendy.
Hi, Lupe.
Welcome to the council. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
she's joining us in the sweltering LA weather here. We're all trying to cool down, trying to not sweat by the end of this podcast. But Lupe, for the audience who may be meeting you for the first time, introduce yourself and let everybody know what you do.
All right. Well, I'm also a member of the HCA. I also run my own website, cinemovie.tv. So you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at that handle at Cinemovie. Some of them are on TV, but I cover movies, TV. I do interviews. I also host the What to Stream with another member of the HCA, and that's on every Thursday at 11 a.m. So we're talking about the latest movies, and I have a section called Oldies but Goodies. I cover old school classics that you can watch on streaming platforms right now, like Chinatown. I talked Chinatown last week. I can't believe it was on Netflix. I'm going to watch it. And it was an amazing experience once again.
Amazing. What's your, out of the shows that have been a little bit more recent, what's been your favorite to watch so far?
Well, if you haven't watched We Are Lady Parts on Peacock TV, I highly suggest it. It is a blend of, it's like, what is it? Bend It Like Beckham and School of Rock.
Oh my gosh.
It's so cool. It's a really cool show. It's about a Muslim female band in London. But I love the way they just handle the rock music, and also they handle being Muslim, because they're deep in their faith, but they also have this punk rock and they're rebelling against society, against sexism and that kind of stuff. And they just handled it really, really well. The main character is so adorable. She has this fantasy sequences because she likes country. So they go against type. So which I really, really love, and they treat him just like equals. And of course the creator. I forgot her name, but she just does it really, really well. And apparently the creator and her family, they created all the they wrote all the songs for the show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's
there you have it.
Yeah. And they use current music. Like they're in the car, they do Wayne's World. They're in the car, bashing their head.
That sounds like my type of show. I'm going to have to, I've been contemplating on whether or not I want to get Peacock. Because I already have the Netflix and the Disney Plus and all the other ones. I'm just do I add another one? But there's been a couple of shows. I'm what is this on? Oh, Peacock. I might have to get it.
The beauty is being press members that you can ask for a.
That's true. Well,
so I can. I did it through the agency, but I'm sure I can give you their contact. So you can get the contact for the Peacock. Because I think I got somebody gave me access to Peacock TV. I don't know who. One day I got. I'm hey,
don't
you now have access to view it. So I'm oh, cool.
Yeah, you're I have access to the screening room. Cool.
I didn't even ask for it. Cool.
Well, I'll definitely be checking that out amongst all the 50 million topics that we're talking about today. Exactly. And I kind of wanted to start today's show with a bit of a rapid fire round, because as I was building the show, I was this is so many topics. There's no way I was at 12. I'm this is too much. So just a quick roundup, some of the new news that's been kind of been revealed to the geeky world. We have a new title revealed by James Wan for Aquaman 2. We have posters for Snake Eyes. Their motion posters are pretty cool. A new poster as well for Jurassic World Dominion, and Black Widow's advanced take a sale has begun. So let's go ahead and just quickly going around the horn. What do we think about the title for Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom?
Reminds me of Indiana Jones for some reason. Although we know what the Lost Kingdom is referring to in the world of, the ocean.
Yes.
So it wasn't like, oh, okay, it wasn't that interesting. But I did some research, and it looks like they might be. I don't know if this is the direction they're going, but in the comic books, I guess there's a bunch of dozen kingdoms in the ocean. So it sounds like maybe they're going to be coming together to fight one great enemy, as it usually goes, if that's the formula they're sticking to.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of the point too. It's as soon as I like heard Lost Kingdom, I'm like, okay, we're gonna go on this adventure. There's gonna be a little of like Tomb Raider vibe, a little Indiana Jones. You know, Nathan Drake kind of look for things and solve puzzles. You get trapped in something, you have to, get, but all underwater. I'm guessing because it's Aquaman. What do you think about the latest title, Jamie?
So yeah, the title's cool. It does give you an idea of maybe we're talking about Atlantis. And that makes me think that National Treasure 3's possible title got stolen. But right? Could you see National Treasure, The Search for the Lost Kingdom? Yeah.
I really could.
But that being said, there's a lot of mystery in that title. I actually think it probably won't be Atlantis. It'll be probably something else. There's sort of, misdirection there. But I'm just excited that this thing is rolling and, that they're about to start filming and, we'll be talking about all the little leaks and things that start to happen over the next, year or so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I definitely want to know is are we getting Black Manta back?
Right.
Because
we would have to be. We have to be.
I mean, yeah, at this point. So I think it's so funny that I was so excited for the title reveal, and I was like, okay, let me go read up about it, and then there was pretty much that was it. Title reveal, no concept, no plot, no nothing else. I was like, oh well. I mean, we're a bit far out from it, so I can see why. They're not giving as much.
And you also have to remember, like, Black Manta, I mean, while they tried to use him, I think, sparingly in the first film, I mean, he is the Joker to Aquaman's Batman, or the Lex Luthor, or the whatever you want to call it. So I don't, and Aquaman has other villains, but I mean, other than Ocean Master was really the other big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the other big one. I mean, there are other, King Shark is being used in Suicide Squad, so that maybe wouldn't come over in this one. So yeah, I would love to see Black Manta and maybe explore more of the Black Manta mythology and really have him, maybe put together like an army of whatever to fight Aquaman's kingdom.
The battle for the Lost Kingdom.
Yeah,
Aquaman 3. That'll be the next title.
I think most people complain that there wasn't enough Black Mantas in the first one, right? So it'd be, it behooved them to make him a bigger part in the second one. Yeah. Otherwise, you can have the rabid fans of DC.
Yeah, I was honestly kind of surprised to be honest, that it leaned more toward Orm being featured in the film than Black Manta, because we all know like Black Manta was a bit more prominent as far as like this, like, the arch nemesis go. But maybe that's what they'll do with this one. Maybe they needed to build up. Right.
I think the idea was sort of saving him for the next one. Now, if you go ahead and save him for the third one, then we're going to have a problem, right? It's almost like, unless they do, which I don't think they are doing, the thing that they're doing with Black Adam and Shazam, right? Because Black Adam is definitely Shazam's Joker. And the idea of giving him his own movie that maybe they would eventually meet in a third one, I think fans can live with that a little bit more because they know Black Adam's coming. Where it would be different if they were, just teasing, Black Manta for the third one. I don't think they'd do that.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Fingers crossed for more news to be revealed by James Wan or whoever else on Aquaman 2. As we dive into some new posters, you guys, there's a bunch of motion posters that came out for Snake Eyes. I only pulled these 3 because I kind of pulled my favorites. I got to represent the ladies, and I love Andrew Koji, so I couldn't not have him in there. But we do have Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins coming out in theaters only July 23rd. And here we see Scarlet Baroness and Shadow Storm. I gotta say, I'm a little biased because I am such a big Andrew Koji fan because of Warrior. I am sad that his pose is like the over-the-shoulder look. And I was like, why not the full face? What did you guys think of these like cool motion posters for G.I. Joe?
They're cool. I think they released some posters a few weeks back, or was it the trailer? I think it was just some like teaser posters. So yeah, I think both Snake Eyes and the other one, I think they're both right.
Yeah. I know.
Like,
that's actually true. They both have similar poses.
Yeah, and then what you were saying about Koji, they didn't really reveal him in the trailer either. Like they're keeping him secret, or what's going on? Because I kept thinking, like, who is that? Who is that?
I think if you caught him, great. If you didn't catch him, then you'll find out more as the movie comes out. I'm very excited to see, as far as like for the movie, how they're going to play out Snake Eye and Storm Shadow, like their relationship at the beginning, because they're kind of like brothers almost. The relationship they have, they're very, very close. So like, how did it go from this to that? Jami, your thoughts on like studios now using not just traditional posters, but motion posters?
Yeah, I mean, that's been something that I think a trend that we've seen sort of happening for a couple of years now. I thought the posters looked really cool. I mean, I'm a huge G.I. Joe fan. I've talked about that on the show before, so I'm really excited for this sort of reboot. You know, I understand why they're doing the Snake Eyes movie. He is the Wolverine of the franchise, so you want to kind of go with that key player. You know, but I feel like, you know, and obviously Storm Shadow is going to be part of that story, Scarlet, but we've seen Scarlet, we've seen Baroness before, and I'm kind of, I wish that they had maybe used a few characters, you know, Spirit, Quick Kick, they're very martial arts based characters from G.I. Joe. Spirit had a rivalry with Storm Shadow, so I feel like it would have been neat to kind of put in a couple of new characters that fans have been dying for, that especially would fit in with the Snake Eyes martial arts world. But obviously Snake Eyes and Scarlet have a connection from the comics, so that makes sense. Baroness is pretty badass, so you got to kind of have, if you're going to have someone representing Cobra, it should be her. Obviously Storm Shadow is connected to Snake Eyes' whole backstory. You know, Blind Master is cool, but again, we've seen those characters before. I would have loved to have them just add a new classic G.I. Joe character that was sort of based in the martial arts. Or even bring in, you know, like a Shipwreck or somebody, you know, someone neat that we haven't seen before that's a fan favorite to kind of go along with it too. I wish they had done a little bit more of bringing in characters that have not been used in the film yet, because the G.I. Joe mythology is quite large.
It is quite large. It's kind of like X-Men if you look at it. Like, you know, you talk X-Men, like people definitely know Wolverine and a Storm and Magneto and things like that. But what about some of the ones that, especially ones that haven't been featured in movies? Like, I understand not everybody has been able to see like the G.I. Joe cartoon. So, you know, when you say G.I. Joe, and I understand the decision to be like, let's use these like more mainstream characters because they're recognizable. But I also would love, if this is indeed an origin and they're planning to build out their own like G.I. Joe verse, I hope that they will kind of pay more attention to some of the like less mainstream characters, because they're really cool too. There's a lot to go there. And we also have another, I love this poster, this one from Jurassic World Dominion, and with the tagline, "It all started here." And obviously that reminds you of all the little mosquito that was stuck in the amber, and then it became the decorative stone on Dr. Hammond's walking cane. Do you think this movie is going to take us back at all to like that exact moment? We saw it kind of before in the first film, that process. Do you think they'll kind of replay that again or something else?
Well, they released another image. I don't know if it was a raptor. They don't know if it's a raptor because they have feathers on their head. And so a lot of people were surmising that it's a prehistoric image. So I think they're playing around that maybe they might be revisiting the past and how it connects to the current situation, whereas that these, you know, creatures are now on the loose. So they might revisit the fact that, you know, then the end of that age is coming again. So I don't know if they're playing with that, you know, metaphor, like, oh, you know, the destruction is coming. I don't know.
Well, we do know, I'm not sure if this was just a rumor or if it's been confirmed, but that the lost, whatever you would call it, DNA that Newman was trying to sell in the first, Newman from Seinfeld, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I called him just like his Seinfeld character's his real name, but you know, Newman, he was selling it to that guy. And so Campbell Scott, a great actor and George C. Scott's son, is actually playing that role because I believe the actual actor is in prison. And so they couldn't bring him back. Yeah, I believe the actual actor that Newman was selling it to has had some issues and is doing prison time, and so they couldn't bring him back. And I apologize if he's not doing prison time. He's in some sort of trouble where they could not bring him back. Let's just be clear with that. And that George that Campbell Scott is playing that role. So we know that it's going to connect back to the first one, and this second Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard sequel that this is essentially the third of. That one got so wacky, and I don't want to give anything away. The second one? Yeah, people haven't seen that one yet. It got real wacky with maybe dinosaurs aren't the only thing we're cloning. And so I don't know.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I completely forgotten.
You're probably better off than you had forgotten that. So I don't know where we go with the third one, Please, Lord, tell me there's Jeff Goldblum clones. That would be the greatest thing ever.
That's the only thing that's acceptable.
I mean, short of that, I'm not quite sure what, but yeah, that would be pretty great. That would be pretty great.
Oh my God. Wow. I feel like that was such a deep dive into how did I forget?
I know
that
I
very important
that too.
plot.
Well, do you think it's going to be like? Do you think it's going to be like a Star Wars where each director just does what the hell they want and they don't like reference previous?
It's the same director, I believe.
It's still Colin. It's still Colin.
He directed all three of them. So
no, he didn't.
He didn't direct the last one.
He didn't do the second one.
No, he didn't do the second one. It was a Spanish director.
Yes, you are right. Yes.
I interviewed
him. It is kind of like a sequel, Star Wars sequel trilogy.
So I'm wondering if they all connect, if he had a hand in it. I think I read that a while back that he was involved. It was heavily involved so that it's a smooth transition from film to film. You know why he directed the second one? Because he was supposed to do Star Wars, remember?
Yeah.
And then he got fired.
Right.
From Star Wars. Which one was it? The Last Jedi?
Left the project.
Left the project. Creative differences.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What I did also read, I can't remember which article it was, but Colin Trevorrow speaking about this film, saying that it promises to deliver a satisfying end. What do you guys both kind of think about this comment that he made here? Does that mean this is the end for this Jurassic World trilogy and there won't be any Jurassic movies in a while? We're just gonna let it sit for a little bit and let it simmer? Or I really couldn't figure out exactly what he meant by this comment. I was like, I'm just trying to look into it a little bit too much, maybe?
Well, is that one of those things that sorry, Lupe, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, is that one of those things that sort of directors say, this is the third one, this is the final, and then when it makes $500 million, of course we're going to do... I mean, they said that about Toy Story 3, and then it did gangbusters, and of course they got to do Toy Story 4. So I wonder if that's just one of those things they kind of play with to play expectations for a fourth one. But, I mean, I can tell you, if this movie makes the same as the last two, Universal's not going to stop making Jurassic Park movies. They're just not going to stop making Jurassic Park movies. So if this movie does not, or if it underperforms, that's a whole other story. So I think it really, I don't know what they're planning, but I think it all has to do with how many people go see this film.
Oh, yeah. What were you going to say, Lupe?
Well, they might plant a seed for kind of a spin-off. Hollywood. They're never going to let go of a popular franchise. Yeah, especially when if you have someone else come in, another executive who comes in, you never know, so you really can't believe. I mean, look how many Batmans we have. I think it's ridiculous that we keep getting more Batmans. It's are there not any other DC characters you guys can focus on? So
how many times are we going to see the Wayne family meet their end?
Yeah.
I'm always so sad. I'm like, I get it. We've seen it.
Or Krypton explode. I mean, we've talked about that with the J.J. Abrams Superman stuff. I'm so sick of the Kal-El leaves Krypton, it explodes, and the Kents raise him story. I want a dip. But I'm completely with you, Lupe. We've seen every iteration of Superman and Batman you could possibly do. We've pretty much seen at this point. So what's the point?
Right.
But now dinosaurs. I do like that yeah, exactly. But I do like that they put they're kind of putting the feathers on the dinosaurs, very, very. I was like, oh, finally they have feathers. We've been saying this scientifically. The experts are saying that dinosaurs have feathers, and so far it's not been portrayed in the movie. So I would love to see Dominion kind of give us whether or not it's like the end to this like Jurassic World trilogy or not, because a satisfying end could just literally mean just that. And I think maybe I am reading a bit too much into it, but I would love to see this film kind of loop back to its origin, a la Jurassic Park. And I don't just mean like visuals and like the banner falling, things like that. I just mean like in storyline, how does it all connect together? So that's something I would love to see. And with that, we're going to go ahead and dive into our main topic here, you guys. We have been revealed the villain, Tatiana, or Titania, for the She-Hulk series, played by the one and only Jameela Jamil. And I still want to call her Tahani. It was really, really hard writing the notes for myself last night. I'm like, and Tahani? I'm like, no, it is not Tahani. But Jameela Jamil famously played Tahani in The Good Place. By the way, if you haven't watched it, watch it. I don't know where you can find it right now. I think you can
Peacock.
find it on Netflix.
And I think Peacock.
Oh, because
I think that's where I
it's
watched
an
it, but I
NBC
might be
show.
wrong. Yeah.
It used to be on Netflix.
Total
I watched the
sense.
first couple episodes.
Same. Oh man, such a good show. But now she's taking the turn and she's going full villain for this show. I'm very excited for her. I feel like she definitely deserves to be on TV a whole lot more, and I'm very excited for her take on not just Titania, but also as Mary McFerrin, I think is the name, and to kind of see these two inevitably go face to face. What do you guys think of this casting?
I think it's great. You know, she's very outspoken and she's been getting a lot of trolls. So I think it's great that Hollywood's not paying attention to that and just proceeding, because, you know, I'm excited to see what she can do, especially in a villain role.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so different from her previous work. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity for her, and then for us to see what she's got.
What about you, Jamie?
I absolutely love Jameela Jamil. I just think she's fantastic. She's so funny, so talented. I think this is a great casting. I think she'll kill it in this role. What's interesting to me is, you know, we know her primarily as a somewhat comedic actress, certainly from, you know, a sitcom. And I think she's the host of a game show I've seen on TV a couple of times. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she's very funny. And I remember reading She-Hulk comics. And I wish I could remember what run this was, but it was sometime in the 80s, maybe early 90s. And it was a very funny comic. It was a self-aware comic, almost like Deadpool, where She-Hulk was aware she was a character in a comic book. I hope I'm remembering this correctly. But I remember this in my head somehow, so it must be real, unless I'm just making it up. And so the idea, not that I think that they're going to go Deadpool self-aware with this series, but I do wonder if they're going to play a little bit with the humor in casting her and, you know, the lighter side of She-Hulk. Because remember, she is a character that can control her Hulk, right? Like almost more like smart Hulk. She's not, you know, rah, Hulk. So, and she's a lawyer. And I remember that comic having a lot to do with her, you know, in court as a lawyer and kind of her personal life and dating and stuff like that. So it's maybe a little different than what they're going for, but I hope they do infuse a little bit of humor into the show. And I think that Jameela would be perfect for that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really nice turn. And just you know, for her to be able to play in that villain space, I think it's really nice because for actors and creative, you know, artists and things like that, I don't ever want to see them put in a box and be like, oh, she was comedic and she can do this type of character in The Good Place. That's all she's going to do. And it's, you know, so I'm very excited for her. And I think what we know about Titania is that she's really, really good with hand-to-hand combat. So I'm very, very excited to see if they're going to show off a little bit of that at all. And if, you know, what we've seen with these Disney Plus shows is it's not self-contained to just the show itself. It kind of gives us hints to whether a callback to a previous movie or something to do with Phase 4, as we saw with WandaVision, now with Loki. So I wonder with, now that this has been revealed, like, are we going to potentially get a Doctor Doom, like a cameo or some sort of like a mention, because I think she was empowered, her strength and everything was powered by Doctor Doom. I think
in the comics.
And in the comics. So I mean, they can obviously take, creative freedom or liberty to tell the story in its, best for the show. But I'm curious, but I also want to kind of see the iteration that you were talking about, Jami. I think
and we know when talking about casting, I don't know if it's official yet, but it seems pretty official that Mark Ruffalo and Tim Roth are both coming back, right?
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
I read that too.
I think that's very exciting. And remember, they've never been in a movie together, right? Because Tim Roth went against Ed Norton's Hulk, so it'll be interesting to see them together. And possibly I wouldn't be surprised if we hear that William Hurt is coming back, and maybe even Liv Tyler, cross fingers. So
yeah,
at least I think I'd heard about William Hurt reprising his role. I thought I heard it somewhere, like early on. When you talking early on, I heard the name.
I think he's in Black Widow, is what I heard. So I don't know if that was but he may be popping up in other places as well. But I think Black Widow was where I heard you might see William Hurt next.
Interesting. But we're gonna keep our fingers crossed for more news pertaining to She-Hulk. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Yeah. And at least Jameela isn't doing the whole "I'm not in it. I don't know what you're." Remember we talked about Tatiana Maslany. She's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." I was like, "Wait, but Mark Ruffalo literally tweeted like, hey, welcome cuz,' or whatever it was," and I was like, "But just okay." So at least there's not like the whole weird like. I am, but I'm not.
Well, my worst pet peeve of that was Benedict Cumberbatch and "I'm not Khan" when everyone in the world knew he was going to be Khan, and even promoting the movie goes on David Letterman and says "I'm not Khan," and it's like in 2 weeks we all knew you were. And I hate that. I like it when actors don't have to lie.
Well, I think that's all Abrams. Too. That's all Abrams.
Yes,
it was.
Trying to keep it under wraps.
Yeah, because the secrecy around his project is like, really? Because even that film with the kids who were filmmakers.
Right.
Oh, I was like, really? Like, really? Why do you need secrecy?
The mystery box.
It builds excitement.
Keep the integrity of the mystery box.
I love it. Because for me, I fell right into the trap. I'm like, why? What are you hiding? What's so exciting about this? I got to see this when it comes out. Take my money! Oh, man. And also, moving on to the next topic, since we're on the topic of villains here, Kevin Bacon joins the cast of Toxic Avenger to be playing the villain. That will, I guess, play opposite of Peter Dinklage's character. I love me a good Kevin Bacon in a villain role. I think this is fantastic casting. I'm really, really excited. And I'm very excited for now we're finally getting, what a time to be comic book fans to be a nerd, because now we're getting a She-Hulk, we're getting Toxic Avenger. The cast looks fantastic. Lupe, your thoughts on Kevin Bacon being the villain for Toxic Avenger?
Well, it's an interesting choice because he already played a villain in the X-Men in First Class, I believe, and he was really good in that. I was surprised because when I first heard the casting for that movie, I was like, ugh, Kevin Bacon, but he really surprised me in that movie. He really did pull it off. He was a really good villain. So hearing this is like, oh, okay, let's give this guy a chance. Because usually, he's old school now. So you're like, oh, Kevin Bacon. But that's what happened with Iron Man, with Robert Downey Jr. When everyone first heard that he was going to play Iron Man, everyone was like, really, that old guy? But I mean, look how it turned out.
Yeah, so I know. Was it like 10 years later? Look at where we are.
Yeah, exactly. Jami, so I never really say anything, because I was one of those that Robert Downey Jr. Like, really, that has been. And he had all those issues, with. So I was like, really? Okay,
that's right.
All right. But he's a really talented actor. So now I don't really say anything about new people coming or taking villain roles or superhero roles, because they might surprise, like Paul Rudd. I mean, look at his career.
Right. Yeah, I never would have pegged Paul Rudd to be a superhero, and I love him as Ant-Man. I was like, there's no other Scott Lang for me.
For sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Jami, your thoughts on Kevin Bacon taking on the villain role for Toxic Avenger?
Yeah, well, I'll echo what Lupe said. I mean, Bacon is an amazing actor, a huge body of work. I mean, I think that's why the game, the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon happened, because you look back and he was in Animal House? Like, what?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Bacon's career is crazy good. And I agree, he was a great villain in First Class. So I have no problem with him being the villain in this. I'm just not interested in Toxic Avenger. I remember the movie when I was a kid.
80s one?
Yeah, it was 80s. It was it Corman? Was Roger Corman involved? Or it was some I think so. And it was sort of, it was a Corman-esque kind of trying to do a Swamp Thing, trying to do a superhero kind of thing. And I grew up in an era in the 80s when we didn't have superhero films, right? We had the Christopher Reeves Supermans and then the Tim Burton Batmans, but that was it. And so it was kind of like filling that void for us nerds. But it was always like, this is what I'm getting, Toxic Avenger. Like this is like, or the Corman Fantastic Four, or the TV Spider-Man movies, or the TV Captain America movies. I mean, it was all really lame stuff that we got, and it felt like Toxic Avenger was just trying to like fill the void in a very low budget way. I will say Peter Dinklage, now that's interesting, right?
Yes.
So now maybe my interest is a little bit more perked, and then you got Kevin Bacon as the villain. But I mean, just the idea of, with no casting, of doing a Toxic Avenger remake, I don't know why, other than cashing in on, the current moment in films with these type of movies. But But with a cast like this, we'll see. I'll try to have a more open mind and try to forget the top. But it was scary. Toxic Avenger was creepy and scary as a kid, and it was one of those movies that when cable first started, like it was on cable for free all the time.
Okay.
So you would just get stuck seeing it, and I'm like, ugh. It was just terrible.
So I just looked at the poster from the movie you mentioned, and it's almost laughable.
Yeah. Well, it was like, it was a joke then. Like it wasn't. It would be hilarious. We have to look up Siskel and Ebert's review of it from back then.
Oh my God, yes.
I bet they were devastating to it, because it just was not. It was a joke. No one took it seriously.
Right. Well, we'll see how if they spin it or they really lean into it. I guess that's what we'll see.
If they try to keep the sort of goofiness of it and the cheesiness, or if they try to lean in like full Marvel serious, Zack Snyder serious with it.
Oh wow! Can you imagine? I don't know if that would work.
No.
I don't know if that would work.
I agree. I don't know if either would work. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, you guys should subscribe to this channel and tune back in to Pop Council as more of these news on Toxic Avenger and She-Hulk and everything else we've talked about so far comes to light, and we will be touching on those topics. And with that, we're going to take a spin into the universe of Star Wars and talk a little bit about The Mandalorian. Season 3 sounds like it's delayed, but not for any drama that you guys may think of, not because of actors, blah, 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 blah. It's actually literally just a straight up production scheduling conflict, and not a hiccup, it's a conflict because of the soundstage that they would like to use is currently being used right now to film Obi-Wan. And hearing that actually made me really happy to know that they're actively working on Obi-Wan. They're shooting, and it's not something where you can just walk into this. I'm assuming that they're using like the volume to shoot some of it, because The Mandalorian, famously used that. And I can't just see them being like, hey, so can we just borrow this set for like a day? Like, I don't think that's going to be the case. But do you think that's going to affect, for the question to both of you, affect the release schedule of upcoming Star Wars shows because of this delay? Because they haven't even had the chance to go into production.
Well, it seems like they're just releasing them back to back. So I don't think so. I mean, we had, WandaVision earlier this year, and then Falcon and the Winter Soldier, now Loki. Bad Batch is currently airing. So I don't think they have a problem, because I think people are hungry now, for this stuff. Because I know when the shows go off the air on every Friday, or now Wednesdays, you're like, I need that social media interaction to see what other people are saying. And, it's a really unique situation with Disney Plus, is that people really love these shows and they really love talking about it. So I don't see that it's a problem for them, because they can just do it back to back with a month. They can go a month downtime, and no problem. People will come back and enjoy it equally. But we already knew there was going to be a delay, right? Because of the book of Boba Fett. We knew that was going to come first, and then Mandalorian.
I wanted to ask you guys about that, because we ended season 2 of by the way, spoiler alert if you guys haven't watched Mandalorian season 2. So at the last year, I guess, when we ended it, we got a little what is it, like post-credit scene introducing Book of Boba Fett of Boba and of Fennec walking into Jabba's palace. Now I guess we can call it Boba's palace, and very just sitting on the throne, taking over. I'm very excited for the Book of Boba Fett. And I feel like what Disney Plus is trying to do with the Star Wars TV show specifically is, now we're kind of leaning into the Boba Fett, but because of where it exists in the timeline right now, I think we might still maybe be able to see a couple of cameos here and there from characters in The Mandalorian. Jami, your thoughts on kind of potentially the crossover?
Wait, explain that to me again. What's your theory?
That because of the current timeline that the Book of Boba Fett's going to exist in, that we could see Mando walking back into have, a couple of episodes here and there, a little appearance here and there with Grogu and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that would be interesting. My first thought is that they're probably going to lean away from that because that seems like it's too crossovery to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, it would seem that if you start to have Mando and Grogu cross over into Book of Boba Fett, then it's not really Book of Boba Fett anymore, right? Now it's just Mandalorian season 3. So my feeling is they're going to separate it a little bit more. I mean, we know Fennec is obviously going to be on the Boba Fett show. I would guess that that's going to maybe delve more into if Boba is the new leader of the Hutts, then how sort of that and him dealing with, now here's where you could have some crossovers with Crimson Dawn and Darth Maul, and maybe even Emilia Clarke comes back, I don't know, as Kira. So that's where you could maybe have some crossover, I think, and less maybe with the Boba Fett or with the Mandalorian. And I do think, to the point about the schedules, I mean, I think that Lupe is absolutely right. I mean, they have a system going now, Disney Plus, and I think the machine is just sort of starting to get going. They had some stop and starts, and obviously the pandemic affected everything. And so I think that once like the sort of Disney, Marvel, Disney Plus, Star Wars machine is really going, then they'll have a point where probably they're going to just go from new series to new series to new series. And so, yeah, I don't think, I mean, and then do we know yet when Obi-Wan will possibly premiere? Could that happen between Boba Fett and Mandalorian in early 22? I don't know. So I think the shows are going to kind of keep going, and so that even if maybe if Obi-Wan slows down Mandalorian 3, then it'll be ready to go, and then Mandalorian. I just think that they're going to be able to work out a system where they can kind of keep going show to show to show to show.
Well, what's interesting right now, if you look at the Disney Plus's current slate and schedule, it's Marvel heavy. Right. For the beginning of this year, because we went from WandaVision to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, now Loki, and then we kind of have the Bad Batch sitting, with shorter episodes but a longer run, like the runtime for the entirety of the show, because I think there's 16 episodes or something like that. Oh, wow. So I think the I think the Bad Batch will lead us into August, and then I kind of don't know what's filling the space in that time until December that we get the Book of Boba Fett. But then I wonder, for 2022, is the Disney slate going to get switched up a little bit, and we're going to go a little Star Wars heavy in the beginning, where we're going to get Obi-Wan because it's in production right now. There's no other show other than that show right now that I know of that is in actual production. So could we get Obi-Wan in the beginning of the year and then season 3 Mandalorian at the end of the year? Because typically they like to release Star Wars in the winter/fall.
Right. Well, so and what about Andor? When's that going to be?
I don't know if that's next year. Have they even started shooting that?
I thought they had, because they had a whole
that's 2022 for release, so
with footage last year that they showed.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So we could have then Obi-Wan and Andor, and then so it could be a little bit more Star Wars heavy next year. And I kind of like the switch, so it's not too like people are expecting like okay, Marvel at the beginning of the year, right, Star Wars at the at the end of the year. I kind of like that. And speaking of Andor, I'm glad you brought that up, because there's news saying that both Forrest Whitaker and Ben Mendelsohn could reprise their role and make little cameos in Andor, which I'm very excited about, because I loved Krennic. I love Ben Mendelsohn. I love it, especially when he plays a villain. Like he's probably my favorite villain actor ever.
I agree.
He's so good. So I'm very excited to see, with the time being set in Andor, like where we're going to see Krennic. Is he going to be of the rank that we saw in Rogue One, or is he going to be working up his ranks? Within the Imperial like office class, and with Saw Gerrera, where is he? Is he kind of, because we saw what him in Rogue One, he was all kind of didn't have all the body parts with the breathing apparatus. Would you guys want to see kind of where these characters have spent their time and kind of how they take us through that journey a little bit in Andor?
Yeah, definitely. Like, saw another character that was not explored enough that we wanted more. So yeah, I think, it'd be interesting to see a little more of his backstory. And for people who are not familiar with him in the comics, I mean, I was interested in seeing like, oh, who is this guy and what's his story? So, I'd love to see him return in some aspect.
What about you, Jami?
Yeah, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Wendy, Saw is going to return in not in Rebels, in Bad Batch. I think we are going to see Saw in Bad Batch. So it would be interesting to see him little bit pre-Rogue One and see how that change maybe grows between this appearance in Bad Batch to when we might see him in Andor. And I agree with Ben Mendelsohn. I mean, when he goes full Mendelsohn, I mean, that's the best. I love me some full Mendelsohn, and he got to in that role. So and that would be interesting. I hadn't thought about that before, to see him kind of going up the ranks. That would be interesting. I wonder if they could maybe get Mads Mikkelsen to come back, and we could see a little bit between those
a little
characters.
Galen Erso action?
Yeah, like before he realized that he would, when they were working together on the Death Star, something like that might be interesting. But I don't know. Have they said how large Ben Mendelsohn's role will be? Because that could also, he could just be one episode cameo kind of thing too.
Yeah, I just wonder if all these characters would potentially meet and how that's going to affect, what we saw in Rogue One. Because if they've met before, then like Cassian would have already known about them.
Right. I don't think that they would meet those three characters that we're talking about.
They shouldn't, but I would love them to, because they all exist in the same timeline. So
right.
Just put the entire cast of Rogue One back into just make this like Rogue One, like Rogue Zero or something.
Oh, would it be great if Donnie Yen came back?
That's what I want. Yes.
Oh.
Yes, 100%.
I would love
100%.
to explore those characters.
Donnie Yen and everything as well.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, we got a little bit of time left, so I think we're going to go ahead and jump right into talking about Loki. So we've got episode 1 finally out, with episode 2 coming out this week. And this show is, like, I expected a lot, but I also at the same time didn't know what to expect, because we're playing with timelines here. So with this first episode, it really blew me away at how much we covered and how much new stuff that I kind of learned specifically to the TVA. So I kind of wanted to get you guys' thoughts on your initial reaction. And of course, we'll go into, spoiler talk for the episode. Let's go ahead and start with Lupe first.
Well, it took a little getting used to. It was just such a weird kind of show, and the vibe is so different. I mean, Loki is the same guy, but you put him in a different environment, and he's trying to get the hang of this place, and we're trying to get the hang of this place. It was interesting. It was more like, it was jarring almost for me. But the Owen Wilson and the chemistry with Tom Hiddleston, it was off the charts. That was the best thing about episode 1, because there's a lot of exposition, but that relationship was so good. And the way he's breaking down Loki, and Loki's like, oh, I love the line. He says, "You lose a lot." Like, you can totally see Owen Wilson coming up with that line, So
he's improv it.
Yeah, so it was a little jarring, but that's what I like about it, that they're not sticking to a formula. Like, WandaVision was something else, Falcon was heavy on the action, and now you have another show which is totally different. I really admire that about Kevin Feige, that he's willing to take chances. And I think he really did take a big chance with this director. And I kind of got, I don't know if you guys agree, but I kind of got vibes like BBC kind of type show, the way they shot it, really low-key lighting.
Oh.
And just the sets, I was like, Doctor Who kind of. So
yeah.
I can see that.
Now that you say that.
Vibe. Yeah, and so I think that's why you saw a lot of negative comments. I think it's, people don't like to see something new. They want to stick with the kind of old. So I kind of, I take their comments with a grain of salt because it is jarring and it's something. But if you like uniqueness and you like seeing something different, I think you'll enjoy it. But if you're kind of used to a certain format, then it's going to be a little too jarring for you and you're going to hate it. So it depends where you're at.
Jami, your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually kind of felt the opposite of Lupe. Not that it was jarring. I felt that it was a fully formed series from the get-go, that it knew exactly what it was and what it wanted to be. And I also loved WandaVision and ultimately Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but both shows took 2 to 3 episodes to really get going. I don't think either episode was really, you had a sense of what the show was until episode 3 at the very least. And so with this one, I was from the jump, from the get-go, I knew exactly what we were doing, what we were going. Like, it felt fully formed to me. And I also like the idea. I completely agree that they had an amazing chemistry, Hiddleston and Owen Wilson. I mean, he fits this role like a glove, fits into the MCU perfectly. I hadn't thought about the BBC thing, but now that I'm thinking about it, I think you might be right. I see what you're saying about that. But Owen just fits in this perfectly. So I love the chemistry between the two of them. And I almost would describe it as like if Hans Gruber hadn't died at the end of Die Hard. And the sequel to Die Hard was John McClane and Hans Gruber having to team up in a time cop style movie, right? That they're not even in a Die Hard sequel; they're in a time cop movie. That's this series, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I've seen the first 2 episodes. I won't say too much about the second one, but I absolutely love where it's going. I love what they're setting up. I mean, I just hope that the remaining, is it only 6 episodes, right? Yeah. So I hope the remaining 4 are as good as the first 2 were, because the first 2 were 2 of the best episodes of television I've seen in a long time.
I really enjoyed Loki because I feel like I had a feeling just watching the trailers alone that it was going to be kind of bonkers. So I think I kind of set myself into that mentality before I jumped in to watch the episode. So when it did go bonkers crazy, like with, Miss Minute and her introduction and the way all of a sudden went into like this animation, I was like, okay. And just, jumping all over the place. And my favorite part was sort of seeing Loki experience the TVA for the first time. And Loki's this character who is like, I am glorious and, I am burdened with glorious purpose. And he wants to kind of like call attention to himself and cause chaos wherever he goes. And even, obviously did a little bit so even within the TVA. But it's interesting to watch the character go from someone being able to use his position and power so easily to manipulate and to bend things to go his way, to have no power or abilities working in the TVA because it works really differently. I love seeing that little bit of it and the explanation via the animation on the different time branches off. If somebody veers off the main timeline, that was really great. We got to talk about seeing the Infinity Stone in this episode. When he opened the drawer, I was like, there's so many, like, what if people just broke into the TVA, like infiltrated, grabbed all the Infinity Stones and then moved into other universes, because we know they don't work in the TVA, but they work elsewhere. So like, imagine if somebody, they solved that problem by pruning that thing. So there won't be that. I also got to give my shout out to like my favorite smaller side character, but let's give it up for Casey.
Yeah.
Casey cracked me up, especially the little interaction he had with Loki. And I'm betting that we're going to see Casey more and more, just little bits of, as comic relief and things like that. But so far, I am really liking where the story is taking us. I like that with Tom Hiddleston's portrayal of Loki, going from this like very cocky, I am a god, to seeing the end of his life in this episode. And I think that scene is kind of what really hooked me into the show. And I was like, what else is he going to discover? Now that he knows that in the main timeline, he essentially is dead. So I don't know, but we will. Can
I say something else that really surprised me about the way they did it? We saw in the trailer that Loki would be at some point pretending or being DB Cooper, the real life famous guy who's hijacked a plane and jumped out, for those who don't know, in the 70s. And so what was interesting, now I had just assumed, and I think most people assumed, and let me know if you guys had assumed, that this would be part of the time shenanigans of the series, that Loki would be pretending to be DB Cooper on some sort of time heist or whatever as part of what he and Mobius are doing with the TVA. As in fact, we found out that this is canon. That at some point in the 70s, I guess on a dare from Thor and Hemdale.
On a bet or something?
Or a bet or something. Yeah, right. It was a bet, not a dare. That he created DB Cooper. He is the real DB Cooper, Loki. And so I thought that was an interesting sort of twist on my perception of what I saw in the trailer and how it would fit into the show, and doing it a different way. Now, I think it was a little bit more anticlimactic in a sense, but that's only because of what my own imagination had built based on the trailer. But what did you guys think of sort of that reveal that Loki really was DB Cooper in real life and not part of some branch, timeline?
I enjoyed it. It reminded me like the Forrest Gump, like, those little.
Yes.
So I would love to see like a little more of that stuff. I figured maybe they might sprinkle that kind of stuff throughout the show, because they can't just do a one-off. Right. Yeah, you have to go like Forrest Gump.
I agree. Yeah, that's right, Lupe.
Yeah, I thought that was a fun little segment. It was very separate, and it kind of worked in the way that they used it, because they were kind of Mobius taking Loki through his greatest hits. And he's like, man, I can't believe you're DB Cooper. And I would, kind of echoing what you both said, would love 100% to see more of like, well, what else did Loki, cause chaos, god of mischief, do, and became certain various characters and certain like these like figures that we know of, or the lures and legends, and it's really just Loki all along.
Being mischievous, like always.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad that they did the DB Cooper thing, because I think there's, sometimes an urge to like say, oh, he was the guy in the grassy knoll that shot Kennedy. We did that with Magneto, with X-Men. Like, I'm glad that they picked another sort of cultural thing in history to go to, rather than just everyone always goes to Kennedy, and I'm glad they did that.
There's always Bermuda.
Oh, could they explore that? They could. That's what's kind of cool with like when you deal with time and like the multiverse, kind of we're seeing like the multiverse again being teased in this show, is that there's so many little lures and things that they can really play with in this show, and it's canon, but it won't really mess with the main storyline until they decide they do. Like, who knows, episode 6, they blow up the entire thing and it's like, oh my God, everything's changed.
Well, what did you think about the Multiverse Wars reference?
I loved it.
I think that's
it intrigued me.
I think that's Secret Wars from the comics. That's because that was basically a multiverse war. So that would be my guess.
Then that would loop us back into even She-Hulk.
Right.
And Titania and all of that.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, now we're getting it. Yeah.
Is it Wednesday yet?
It's gotta be, because Marvel doesn't just throw things out there for no reason.
Yes. And going to the comments real quick, Trailer Gamer writes, did anyone catch Peggy Carter getting arrested in a quick flash in episode 1? And it was a huge Easter egg miss. So the moment that he's talking about is when Loki hijacked Mobius's little device and he bamfed himself somewhere else via the orange door, somewhere else in the TVA. And as soon as he bamfed into that space, we saw another door open behind him with a Minuteman agent walking in with someone who's dressed and very much resembled our beloved Agent Carter. So that's interesting. So was she brought into the TVA because Steve deviated from the timeline and went back in time to spend time with her? Do you remember in the end of...
Is she an alternate Peggy Carter? Right? Because I don't think it was Haley. I don't think it was the actress.
I don't think it was her, but it was made to look like her. For sure.
But it could be a different...
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm trying not to give anything else away, but
remember, in the
it could be a different human being that is that.
Well, let's remember, Peggy Carter returns in What If show,
right?
As the new Captain America. So I got to rewatch that, see if there's any clues in there.
If you're thinking that Peggy Carter was arrested by the TVA because Steve decided to go spend the rest of his life with her at the end of Endgame, they're not going there. No, there's no way they're gonna do.
It's a deviant, unless it was meant to happen.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think Steve and Peggy were meant to be. I mean, I think that's the
I
Marvel
want them
thinking.
to be meant to be.
I think that's the screenwriters thinking, that they were meant to be together in the 40s.
So this is a variant then.
That would maybe be part, because you know how the judge said no, the Avengers were meant to do that. We wanted them to do. So I wonder if that's not, you know, the time the timekeepers aren't necessarily like, you can't break the time law. It's like, is the time law supposed to be broken, right? That kind of thing. So I wonder if Peggy and Steve aren't meant to be together, even if they have to cross times to do it.
I think it's a big part of me is just wishing for an appearance by Haley Atwell, because I love her so much.
I do too. That would be awesome. That would be, but as Lupe said, she will be in What If. She will be very much featured in What If. And
that's why I'm going to watch that show, amongst other reasons.
My question is timekeepers. So what's do you know? Is there a mythology about them in the comics? Because everyone's thinking that they're not really what they seem to be.
Right. I don't know as much about them as like the Watchers from the comics. I kind of thought that they were maybe using that as a bit of a representation for. I'd have to do, but from my own Marvel comic reading knowledge, I don't remember the Timekeepers. So I think it's
King the Conqueror.
Well, that's a very possible. Now again, not to read too much from the comics,
but here we go with the fan theories.
Gugu Mbatha Raw's character is the girlfriend of him from the comics, so certainly, and we know he's appearing in Ant-Man 3, so that's a possible, that's a good possibility. That's a good possibility.
That's going to be how episode 6 ends, when Loki finally gets face to face with timekeepers. He walks into this room and it's King the Conqueror.
Ooh,
wouldn't that be crazy?
Good.
I'm sure I'm wrong. I've been wrong with all my fan theories, so I'm not. I wouldn't even bet on myself. But we're running so short on time, and I definitely want to jump into In the Heights. So you guys make sure we tune back in every Monday to check us out and listen to us talk Loki. But let's go ahead and get into In the Heights. This movie just came out both in theaters and on HBO Max. It's directed by John M. Chu, and we know this is the first musical that was created by Lin-Manuel Miranda. A lot of people thought that Hamilton was first. It was actually In the Heights first. All three of us got the opportunity to watch the movie from the comfort of our home. Lupe, your thoughts on the film?
I was really blown away. John Chu did such a great job with these numbers. I mean, I'm not a big musical fan, just because they always sing about the obvious that we're watching. It's like, why do we have to sing about it? But the numbers here were so impressive, especially that swimming pool scene. My God, there was like 500 plus extras, and they use a crane and single shot. They go above water, underwater. It was amazing. I rewound it just to watch that one. But I think he did such a really good job. And me coming from the West Coast, because there's this East Coast, West Coast Latino thing where we're totally different lifestyles. Because, obviously in California, we don't live on top of each other, basically. So I didn't think, at first I thought, well, I might not, feel it because it's such a different, cultural thing. But I really love that the themes were really universal. Each person has a dream, and I can totally relate because everyone's dream is different. And the pressures that you get as a Latina, as a first graduate from college, you feel the pressure. Everybody puts pressure on you, and you really feel it in one of the characters. I really love that they had various dreams in there, and it's essentially the American dream. And I think that's what was universal about the film. So people should go see it and give it a chance. Like, I thought it was going to be very niche, but it's not. It's very universal. I think you're going to pick one of those characters that's so like you, because like I said, it's basically the essential American dream and what each person wants out of their life. It could be somebody who stays in their neighborhood, has a beauty salon, and they're happy. That's their American dream, or somebody else can go out and go to college and make a life for themselves, helping people like themselves. So I really enjoyed it.
Jami, your thoughts on the film?
Yeah, I also am not a huge musical person, musicals, theater or film person, but I will say that I can recognize quality, and I thought this was really well done, well-made film. John Chu, amazing. And one of my pet peeves with either a play or a musical, anything that was created for the theater that is then made into a film, and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, as good as that was, that had this issue, which is they're set to be confined in, you know, one room for a play or 2 rooms. And so when they did the movie, they kind of still have in these 2 rooms and feels sort of not, you know, it's not cinematic. Where it's cinematic, we can open up, and that with, you know, dancing on the roofs, on the side of buildings, and these huge musical numbers, and all through the city. I mean, I would imagine a lot of those numbers in the play took place like in one environment. With the film, they really open it up where they can go through the whole city. The whole city is really the stage. So I thought that was really well done. The lead actress, I'm Melissa something. Am I getting that right? Yes, she was amazing. I thought she was absolutely, there she is. She was absolutely excellent. Loved her in it. And I thought the whole cast was great. Corey was great. Anthony. So, yeah, I was surprised. I really enjoyed it. My mom is the musical fan in the family. And I'd taken her to musicals. We went to La La Land. And she said, this isn't a musical. This isn't a real musical. Oh, no. Because it wasn't enough music for her in it. I took her to the Hugh Jackman thing. She said, now that's a real musical. And I think she'd say the same thing about this, because this was a real classic Hollywood musical movie, and like Lupe said, very relatable for everybody. And I thought it was very well done and very good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I absolutely echo your thoughts. I really enjoyed the movie. My only regret was that I chose to see it at home, as opposed to in the theater, I think. And I knew this too when I heard that John Chu was directing this. He comes from a dance background. He's done a lot of, you know, music videos. There's so many directors. Rob Marshall does a pretty good job too. But when it comes to like musical adaptation to screen, and you have major dance numbers, because not all musicals have big dance numbers, right? If you look at Rent, there's a lot of like, it's like a rock opera, but it's more song performing versus like dance number heavy. But In the Heights and Hamilton are both, you know, dance heavy, and choreography matters. And I think John Chu was the right person to really bring that and showcase that to the best of its ability. We're talking about the pool scene with like the 500 extras. There was no other ways to shoot it other than a crane and master wide angle shots. That's what I want to see. I don't need to see people close up dancing for the entirety of the song. Some parts of it, great, but not the entirety. I want to see the beautiful choreography, and I want to see everybody's costume. I love the diversity, not just like, you know, different like, you know, like Dominicans or and Puerto Ricans and Cubans and everybody featured, but it was also in shape and sizes. It was all different, from dancers to the actors in the film, and I enjoy that so much. But I was like, yes, this is a reflection of the real world. So I loved what he did with it, and John M. Chu can adapt any musical to any from stage to film anytime, whichever one he wants. I loved it. And I gotta say, shout out to like this scene, like totally made me cry. I don't want to say too much about it.
My day.
And I knew when the song came, I was like, here it is, because when I listened to the musical, I also boohooed. But this hit differently for some reason. Like stage, the same emotion, same level of boohoo, but it hit really differently because of the use of light, and, you know, with her moving through parts of New York through her song, but also kind of journeying through her own internal monologue. I thought it was just beautifully shot. So if you guys haven't had the chance to watch In the Heights, it's now open in theaters near you if you feel safe to go into a theater, or you can watch it from the comfort of your home, and have all the snacks that you want on HBO Max. So with that said, you guys, I think we've reached the end of our time here on Pop Council. We want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you so much, Lupe, for hanging out with us today. Where can everybody find you on social media to continue the conversation?
Well, thanks for having me. It was a blast. You can find me, well, go to my website, cinemovie.tv. You'll find the latest interviews and movie reviews. And also I'm on Twitter at Cinemovie, at Facebook at Cinemovie TV, and Instagram at Cinemovie TV. And check out my interviews on YouTube as well at Cinemovie TV.
And Jami, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, I am on Instagram and Twitter at Philbrick. You can see it right there. And just my name, Jamie Philbrick, on Facebook.
Perfect. And you can find me everywhere, just at my name as well, at Wendy Lee Szany. And you guys make sure you are subscribed to this channel. We're just one of the few shows right here on the Hollywood Critics Association Network. And we have really awesome shows such as The Lone Box with Tessa and Janita on Tuesdays at 11, Horrifically Horrifying on Wednesdays at 11 with Heather Wixon and Kevin Tapp. What to Stream on Thursdays at 11 with the one and only Lupe, and What's Trending in Hollywood on Fridays at 11 a.m. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Don't forget to thumbs up this video to help us get more eyes on this channel, and we will talk to you guys next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.